Well, I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome again. This webinar is recorded for access later. Today's webinar will be hosted by our very own Dr. Julie Malmberg, who will talk with us today about air quality. Julie is currently the Assistant Director for the UCAR Center for Science Education and is a member of our Garden Leads team. So go ahead and take it away, Julie.
Thanks, Emma. So yes, today I'm going to focus on air quality and also actions to improve local air quality. Um, so I will get started with our plan today. So we have introductions and then some air quality 101, and then looking at local air quality measurements. The importance of talking about solutions focus when talking about air quality. And then looking at spheres of influence, examples of solutions, and then finally, hearing from all of you what you're doing in your communities. So first up in the introduction slide, and I'm not going to go through all these, but this is our team. But I'd love to hear from all of you if you wouldn't mind sharing your name and where you're from um, in the chat. And I'll pull up the chat also. And if you do need to reach the Garden Leads team at any point, there is an alias that Emma just put into the chat. So that is a great way to reach the entire team here. That's in the pictures here. So welcome from Boulder, Elizabeth. Hi, Barbara from Arlington. Good to have you here. And okay, well, if anybody else joins us, hope they can also add their information to the chat there. So let's go ahead and go through an air quality 101. I'm assuming this is probably information that most people know, but also like to start on the same page with everybody with vocabulary and also talking about what we're actually discussing. Thanks, Emmy, for your introduction also. Um, So air quality, when we're talking about that, it's the level of pollutants in the air at a location and time. And pollutants can include such things as ground level ozone, particles, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide. There are others also, but I've included this image here to show you that sometimes pollution is visible. And in this example, we have that lovely brown cloud over city. And so it's definitely a visible example in this one. But also, as we hopefully all know, not all air quality, not all pollution is visible. So when talking about where we're getting our air pollution from, we have both human-made and natural air pollution sources. So thinking about human-made, this can include vehicle exhaust, coal-burning power plants, agriculture, industrial sources. And then natural definitely can include the volcanic eruptions, fires, and dust storms. So again, we do have pollution sources that are both human-made and also that occur naturally. And for our purposes, we're really focusing a lot on ground level ozone. So this is an image showing how ground level ozone forms. And what happens for this one is you have nitric oxide, or NO, and volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, and they react in sunshine. So we look at this image here, it really shows you the clean air, what's happening there. And then we have some kind of reduction of nitric oxides. So here we have it from a car and also the volatile organic compounds. And then, they have chemical reactions. Then we have sunlight, it causes an atom to be lost. And then we have a new formation of an ozone molecule. And this is the part we consider like the dangerous ozone. Again, ground level ozone is what we're talking about this. Ozone higher in the atmosphere, in the stratosphere, we actually really need and want. So again, we're focusing on the ground level ozone in this conversation. So what impacts air quality? Some important things to consider with air quality are pollution sources, geographic features, the weather, including the winds and temperature, and also the time of day. So on the right here, there is a graph showing on the x-axis is local time, on the y-axis is ozone concentration. And then you can see solid lines are a day without breezes, and on the dashed lines are days with breezes. So what do you notice about this image? Like what kind of things from this graph do you stand out to you? And if you want to unmute or put in chat, either way is fine. Maybe lots of people are maybe typing for this part. I'm going to also mention this came from a study about Lake Ontario and Toronto. So this is looking at ozone concentrations in Toronto, which is really close to Lake Ontario.
I think there's two things I'm noticing. This is Susanna in Staten Island. I'm noticing that there's big swings throughout the day that align with what I'm guessing is heat as the day warms up. And I'm also seeing a lot of, I'm not entirely sure what the different lines are showing us other than, there's been a lot of different lines, which I guess show a lake breeze day versus a non-lake breeze day, but I'm not sure how many data inputs are creating those many different dotted versus solid lines.
Yeah, a great observations. We have changes about throughout the day, and also we have changes depending on whether or not we have wind. And I don't remember the number of inputs that went into this, but it's a really good point and think about the number. And then the important part to notice is that ozone concentrations do change throughout the day. Again, the heat of the day tends to have higher concentrations of ozone, and also that depending on what's happening. So maybe in this one, they have ozone being blown in from other areas also. So we could have that part happening here, or it could be that there's mixing and spreading out more sources to other areas. So yeah, it's good points there. Thanks for the observation. Okay, so now we're going to look at some of our local air quality measurements. A great way to go find what's happening in local air quality is on the EPA website, airnow.gov. So if you all want to go there, and if you want to put in the chat what your current, I guess your current number is the nowcast AQI for ozone, what that one is. So in this example here, this is from Monday, and it was 54 and moderate. So, and Emma just put the link to that website in the chat. Thank you, Emma. So you want to go there and tell me what your number is and where you are.
I'm looking in Staten Island and I'm a little disconcerted because it says I'm at 50, 64 is what it says. But we've gotten AQI warning alerts for today through our whole community alert.
Huh. I wonder if later in the days could get higher, and that's maybe why you're getting the alert there too. But it definitely, that would be moderate for sure. But I wonder if later on it's going to get higher in that one. So we have some ranges in here. Thanks for sharing those. For those of you who also have ozone sensors, is a good place to check on what's happening, but this is a pretty reliable website for us. I mean, it's very reliable as far as looking at what's happening. Maybe not always the microclimate that could be interesting to know more about, depending on your garden location or where you're talking about. But this is a great resource for looking at your local air quality. So good, thanks for sharing those. And this is looking at our air quality index. So they have this done in colors. You can see that, tend to get the more reds and purples and maroons are more concerning for your area. And the AirNow website does give you the color when you go to that one. So if you are in one of these areas, it'll match the color. But thinking that green is good, yellow is moderate, and so forth. This is a great way to know who's going to be affected by the air quality in your area. And generally, again, when air quality alerts are issued, they're thinking about the entire day. So that is something that keep in mind when looking at what your air quality is. Okay. So now, oh, and I also wanted to mention our how we get some of our air quality measurements also is through our satellites. And so there are 3 different satellites I wanted to mention here. We have Tempo, which we're working with our team here. And then we also have Sentinel, which is the European Space Agency, and then GEMS, which is South Korea. But all of these are looking at pretty regular measurements of surface level ozone, along with other things. But Tempo looks hourly, Sentinel looks hourly, and also GEMS looks hourly. So it's a great way to also get that another observation point for seeing what surface level ozone is what it is at that point, or what it has been. So now I'm going to switch a little bit here with thinking about how we talk about solutions and why we want to talk about a solutions focus. So this is a part focused, this research I'm going to mention here was focused on climate change, but obviously climate change and air quality are very linked. And a group did a survey of 10,000 children and young people, ages 16 to 25 in 10 countries, so 1,000 from each country. And they asked them questions about how they're feeling about climate change. And you can see in this image that the Clean created, which is a network looking at climate literacy and so forth, and more next slide about that one, that the overwhelming emotions about climate change are sadness, fear, anxiety, anger. We don't see anything, even looking at maybe some optimism about future solutions or so forth, until like we have like 31%. But a lot of our young people are feeling that we failed the planet, extreme worry, thinking about family security, the future is frightening. And so coming in with these emotions and knowing where people are coming from can help us frame how we actually talk about air quality solutions, climate change solutions. So then we're going to focus on air quality, but this is something to keep in mind where our young people that we're working with are coming from. And this came out in 2021, so it's fairly recent. And Emma put a link to the article in the chat. And if you want to read this article and can't access it, please email me and I will send you a copy of it. But it's a really interesting read for thinking about how we're talking about climate anxiety and beliefs about what's happening in our globe. So it's the Climate Literacy and Energy Awareness Network has made a great resource in thinking about strategies to move yourself and your students beyond climate doom and gloom towards empowerment. And they really, again, this is focused on climate change, but also really relevant for thinking about air quality solutions. And I really wanted to highlight 3 of the items on here. We have number 4 is encourage and take action, which we're going to talk about today. Number 5, join in creating community and for connection. And the ozone gardens themselves are a great way to do that, to learn more about air quality and what's happening in the gardens. It's a space people can gather. And then finally, number 9 is cultivating hope and resilience. And I realize this image here is really small, so Emma put a link to the full slide that you can view, or the full resource you can view in the chat. So I wanted to mention first, when thinking about solutions, thinking about spheres of influence. A lot of people will come to thinking about air quality solutions and think, well, the only way we can do anything is if we make international treaties that handle these things, which is a good point. And also, most people in this room, I think, probably don't have international influence. Maybe you do, and that's wonderful. Please use it positively. But we're going to want to really focus on our individual and community spheres and how we can influence those ones. And this information comes from this great book. I adapted it from this book, A Field Guide to Climate Anxiety. I have it right here. It's a really good resource for thinking about how we talk about how we can take action. And so some tips from this, and also, again, this is adapted and also some other things added in here, is finding your solution and doing it well. And I wanted to mention each of these items here because they are really important in thinking about how we move towards solutions. So 1, examine your spheres of influence. Maybe you are very involved in city council or really involved in your community's like action plan. And that kind of point, you would have community influence. But most of us actually have more of an individual influence, what we can do day to day, where we're going to focus more later on in this presentation. Then this next one, I really like this idea, is that ecosystems thrive on diversity, and so do solutions. Many types of solutions working together are going to lead to greater outcomes. The third one, which is hard for many of us, accepting messiness. Not everything's going to work the first time, or the second time, or the third time. And maybe it won't be the smoothest path to get to the solution that you're seeking, But so just knowing that there's a process and a path to get there could be pretty messy. The next one is being aware of perceived inefficacy. So if you're thinking about whether or not you're making an impact or actually making a change or making solutions, or the people you're working with are worried about that part, um, just analyzing makes it see what kind of difference you actually are making. Then this next one aligns really nicely with that diagram from Clean earlier with finding positive stories and cultivating hope. Um, when we see benefits and positive outcomes, it can really help keep going. Then valuing your time. This is important again for many of us is when to say no so you can stay fully present when you're saying yes. And then valuing quality over quantity. Doing a few things really well is going to be more beneficial than doing a lot of things not quite as well. So I'm going to go through some of these different types of solutions, looking at both sphere of influence and also more detailed about the type of topic in there. So this first one is looking at national and global solutions. This can be cleaner legislation, support renewable energy initiatives, and also international cooperation. And this image here is a map showing container ships that are carrying cargo, whatever kind of supplies around the world. So the idea that we're all, our separate governments, everything's in isolation is not true at all. We actually have to work together really closely in order to have improvements happen here. So countries working together again can create energy efficiency standards, which would be great. This is from the EPA, also this image here. Then think about technology. So we have air quality monitoring systems and also developing smart city solutions. One of the interesting things that's been in the news more lately that I've heard about, maybe you've all heard about it earlier, is the 15-minute city, which is the idea that you can get around pretty easily within 15 minutes to wherever you want to go, grocery store, the doctor's office, the bank. So everything's close. And so this is something that people are pursuing to think about how we can make our cities smarter. And also thinking about smart cities for managing traffic flow, reducing congestion. And then with our satellite here, Tempo, again, we work closely with Tempo, and we actually have funding from NASA to work on this project. So this kind of technology is really important to consider also, and it's helping us learn a lot about what's happening with our air quality. And then industrial and agricultural processes. So for this one, like thinking about adopting cleaner production technologies, implementing sustainable farming practices, and reducing open burning. Um, some of these things are possible for people to do if they have influence over agriculture or have your own farm or agricultural area. But yeah, so these are kind of ways to use their purchasing power to support farms that are local, and working with extension offices to teach about agriculture and farming and the importance of local farms and how we farm. So yeah, it's another one interesting solution there. And I should also mention a lot of these topics. I've put a note on each slide where the image, but also some of the ideas are coming from. So this is coming from Project Drawdown, which I link later on the slides also. So you'll have access to these slides later and can look at the links in them. And then local policies. What people can do is enforcing emission standards, supporting public transportation, improving land use planning, developing renewable energy programs, again, Project Drawdown. And again, for these kind of things, that all of us can research how we, make these kind of decisions. And then in community, we have enhancing green spaces, promoting active transportation, and then community engagement, including our ozone gardens, and then also education and raising awareness. And this image here is from the Green of Detroit. This is a really cool project where people in Detroit have gone through and taken a lot of abandoned homes or areas and started putting trees and other also agriculture and things that will do well in these areas and can support the community. So this is there's if you look at that link up, Green of Detroit, it's a pretty cool campaign. But they work with the local populations also. They are local and work locally in order to share information about what it means to be green. And then individual, I have a few slides for this one. This first one is about clean transportation. So if you have the option to take a public transit, if there's a bus, if there are trains, other ways you can share transportation, carpooling, biking and walking. Um, excuse me. If you're driving a car, turn that car off when parked and avoid idling. Um, I learned this when I have 3 kids, and we had a big campaign about no idling cars, that the amount of emissions from a car is 1 minute is like smoking 3 packs of cigarettes. So idling cars produce a lot of emissions that we could, by turning your car off, it can easily avoid. Um, Also, refueling during cooler parts of the day. If you refuel in the hot parts of the day, it creates the opportunity for those pollutants to interact with the sun and then create surface ozone. And then thinking about hybrid electric vehicles and also properly inflating tires in order to have the best um, mileage for your car. Then we have for homes, so thinking about insulation, if you can air dry your clothing, replace air filters, check seals around doors and windows, use low VOC products like paints and cleaners. Also thinking about your energy efficient appliances. A lot of places will actually, power companies will do rebates or incentives for power efficient appliances. LED light bulbs. Again, for these ones, a lot of places give them out. So I know that some communities have places that you can go to get free light bulbs. And then think about your thermostat setting. If you do one that is smart, it can change the thermostat setting depending if you're there or away from home or go on vacation and so forth. And then our outdoor spaces. So planting trees. And I did mention in here that trees are wonderful. There are a couple, if you have a choice what you plant for trees that do produce, that can react to produce ozone. So there are oaks and poplars. If you're interested in a story about this, I'm going to putting that in the chat also. That there's a link from Yale that has more about this with the trees. But again, planting trees is great. Limiting fires and also thinking about electric or hand-powered lawn equipment. Then purchase locally sourced food, researching initiatives for ballots and sharing information, and supporting candidates that align with how you want to, move forward with your environmental policy and regulations. And so I put an image here of our Boulder Farmers Market, which is a fun experience here. People come into the workshop. Wednesday night is a time also you can go to the farmers market. So if you're here for the workshop in a few weeks and want to see the farmers market, Wednesday night it's open. And so then I wanted to open it up to all of you. What kind of actions do you like to promote in your area? And what have you found to be successful for promoting solutions about air quality? Again, feel free to unmute or to add things to the chat.
I can share that I was inspired to get involved more on a community level and join my city. Well, my city is also a county, so the environmental or advisory committee on environmental sustainability. So we help support the city council, city county council in determining sustainable action. So one of our upcoming um, educational campaigns is on electric vehicles and which improve air quality or don't contribute to air pollution as much.
That's awesome. Thanks, Elizabeth.
I can share that in Staten Island, as part of New York City, there's a couple of things that we do. We've just, as an organization, transitioned over to using electric equipment as much as we possibly can, rather than things with engines. And we're trying to start engaging the community in that around our option and encouraging the community to also do that with some of their own household stuff. And then we are also partner with places like transportation alternatives to advocate for mass transportation and having that be more simple in our space. And of course, we support community gardens everywhere to try to have there be more sustainable gardening practices that they use.
Fantastic. Thank you, Susanna. Anybody else? We have a few people here, so if anyone else wants to share, feel free to add that into the chat also, or again, you can unmute. Well, add that all of you being part of this network definitely is a great way for that education and outreach, and also thinking about garden practices and sharing what's happening.
I can just share that I appreciate that you included air drying your clothes as an action because that's a habit I've been doing for the last 3 years now, at least. And I think there's a lot of co-benefits like longevity of your clothing, which reduces wear and tear on your clothing and needing to buy clothing. I like to think it humidifies my house naturally. Uh, and I also, though, I think it's important with these individual actions to get out of the all or nothing mindset. Like there are days where the laundry's piling up and it does limit, my clothing drying rack is only so big. So there are some days where it's like, okay, I need to just put it in the dryer to move things along.
Totally. Yes. Good point, Elizabeth. Thank you.
This is Barbara. I'd just like to share that where I live in Arlington, Virginia, the county is really pretty proactive in the area of public transportation, building. I've seen a lot more new bikeways in the area. I ride a bike a lot. I don't really drive my car very much because I can use a bicycle or use public transportation. And also they're pretty aggressive in trying to plant more trees. And I'm just surrounded by all kinds of actions by the county to improve the air quality here and improve the ability to live here more comfortably without, resorting to more uh, uh, energy intensive technology.
Great. Thank you. So their question with this is, since I believe all of us here have gardens and work with the public in some capacity, what kind of things are you helping to promote at your gardens with people coming to visit? If they ask you this question, what they can do. Do you have solutions available to talk about with them? Again, this is for anybody. Feel free to chat or unmute.
Well, of course, our garden has a poster from the Ozone Garden Network that describes some of the things people can do.
Right.
And this year, I haven't had chats with as many people, passers-by, when I've been at the garden. But last year, a lot of people stopped by, and we just talked informally about what the garden was all about and the importance of uh, things that people can do to reduce the ozone in the air. I just recently received an email from someone who wants to start an ozone garden at a school, and I'm hoping to engage with her because this is middle school children, and I think it will be really fantastic for them to get involved. I think they should be really excited about downloading data from Tempo and from our local air monitor and becoming more aware of their own environment and how they participate in it.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Barbara. That's really great to hear. I know whenever I'm at our garden we have here in Boulder, people can talk about it. They want to know what we're doing, what we're like, what's this garden? Like, why do we have this here? What's going on with it? So it's definitely a conversation starter, is just the garden itself, which is always nice. Because I can't think of time I've been there when people haven't come and talked to me. So yeah, it definitely brings in an opportunity to talk about air quality.
I had an interesting opportunity to write a misconception last time I was out working in the garden. I talked about, someone was asking questions, and so I brought up ozone action or ozone alert days.
Mm.
And the person thought that what that meant was that, atmospheric or stratospheric ozone levels were low, and so UV was high. And so it was, you were supposed
Wow.
to stay inside to reduce your UV exposure. However, I was able to say, oh, it was actually because ground level ozone is higher, and so it can impact your lungs. And it probably is, it would be curious to look at, they do go hand in hand, right? When UV levels are high, ozone might be higher as well. But just the correlation and the reason for it was interesting.
Thanks for sharing that, Elizabeth. That's great to know. Anybody else want to share?
I travel to work using the Van Go system, and I often suggest that to people. I found it to be like far less stressful. It's actually cheaper, and yeah, just better than being in my own car.
Great. Thanks for that, Laura. Well, we have an alias for people and part of our network. Emma, I'm asking another question here. If you could put the email alias for kind of the whole garden network in here when you get a chance. If you think of other solutions you want to talk about, feel free to start an email and with the whole garden network about what you're doing, how you're engaging with the community to come visit your garden, to think about solutions, and what's worked well with talking to your there you go. Thank you. Talking to your populations visit your garden. Something that we all benefit from and seeing what, how people respond and engage with the conversations happening. Well, with that, I'm going to share my resources, and then we're almost finished with this. So on this slide, I just put the different resources I referred to. Again, looking at on the SciEd website, what is air quality? And then the Ozone Garden website, also Air Now for local air quality measurements, Clean for mental health resources, and also Project Drawdown, looking at solutions. And I mentioned just a small sampling of what Project Drawdown has to look at. They have many ideas ranging from individual to global solutions for talking about air quality and improving our atmosphere. So it's a great place to go check out what they have there. And again, these slides will be available to all of you, so you can look at them, the links also. And then I wanted to end with sharing what's next. So we have office hours on Friday, August 22nd. These are available if you want to talk about your garden, if you have questions about your garden, please come. We are here to hear what's of interest to you. If you, it's not a formal session that we share, but it's more of a time to think about if you want to ask questions and so forth. So we don't have a thing planned to share with you for that. It's more of just a space if you want to talk about your garden. And we will have a garden wrap-up webinar about how to, close your garden for the season, what to do, and so forth, coming up soon. That'll be scheduled before too long. We'll share that date with all of you, but know that it is coming up. in the next couple of months. And on this page also, again, our alias for reaching the leads, and then the website where you can go to learn more about the gardens and so forth. And with that, I am going to wrap it up. So thank you all for attending. If you have anything else to share or you want to talk about, I'll stay on for a few more minutes. But it's great to see all of you here today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Julie. If anyone has questions for Julie or just wants to stick around to share about their garden, you're welcome to do so.